What's up, guys? This is Mad Dog for Rebel Esports here with you to talk about some Overwatch League news. So, this is something we're going to be doing on the channel going forward. I'm going to be starting to work on some VOD reviews because I'm working with another team we're going to do a roster announcement. It won't be taking the Rebel name per se, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a Rebel affiliated team. I'm still working on figuring out what I want to do with teams, and just kind of what I want to do with the competitive side. Will we be supporting teams or a league or something like that going forward? Right now, the way I see it, it's a good place for content. Rebel Esports is a great place for Overwatch, professional Overwatch commentary, and just talking about it. So, for right now, that's what we're going to do. We're going to produce content. We're going to produce highlight videos and stuff like that for this channel. So, subscribe if you haven't, and just keep tabs and check out what we're doing. So, introduction out of the way, let's talk about the news. The big news coming out of the Overwatch League, and there hasn't been a ton lately to talk about, mind you, is Blasé going to London. Now, this is an interesting move in that I have no idea what London is trying to do. They need players, and Blasé is solid. He is a solid option, no question. But I'm not sure anyone is convinced he's a top tier candidate for a job right now. Just not. What London has done is basically they promoted their tanks from British Hurricane, which is a fair move. British Hurricane has been quite successful. I thought they promoted someone else. Maybe I don't remember. It escapes me. I'm going to have to look it up after this. Maybe I'll tweet it out. But they added, they put their tank line from British Hurricane. And some people have been like, well, why don't you just bring up the whole team from British Hurricane? If you've talked to me in the past, if you've checked out the Rebel Twitter, I have talked at length why I think bringing up whole contenders teams is a terrible idea. Good contenders teams do not make good Overwatch League teams. And fairly traditionally, this is true, except for one real case, and that's Runaway going to Vancouver and doing great things. And that's just because Runaway was great. Runaway was a team that should have been picked up in the inaugural season back in 2018. Why they didn't, I still don't know. Especially a team like Shanghai was awful. Why they didn't pick up Runaway or Florida Mayhem. If you remember way back when, your Overwatch's video discussing the power rankings of the Overwatch League, it talked about Frito suggested that, hey, why doesn't just Florida just pick up Runaway now and just cut to the chase? And that would have been awesome, because if they would have stayed around this long, we would have had Runaway in the Miami Vice uniforms, and that would be just perfection. But unfortunately, they ended up in Vancouver, and that's also another disaster. What London, I fear, is doing is trying to build a team that appeals to their fan base, which I think is fine. I'm a proponent of this to some degree. They're trying to build a Western team. I think. At least that's kind of some of the rumors I've been hearing, is that and I don't know that much about the British Hurricane, admittedly. So if there is a Korean tank player, that's just going to totally blow up my thoughts on this. But what I fear what's going on is they're trying to appeal to their fan base, to the Westerners. They played in APAC last season, which I don't think a lot of fans were overly thrilled with. And then they've also, like, when they won the championship, they had a parade in, I think it was either Busan or Seoul, celebrating the championship. Like, for whatever reason, there's been a detachment between the London Spitfire and the people of London, the Western fan base. Paris, I don't think, has seemed to have this problem, and most of the American teams haven't really had this problem. Although, admittedly, teams like NYXL have gone great lengths to appeal to their fan base, to try to make their group of Koreans appealing to New Yorkers and to a Eastern United States fan base. And I think Philly has done the same to some degree, though to a lesser degree. But come on, keeping Poco around. As good as Poco is he really better than Fury? I'm going to say no. Maybe he synergizes better, but I would have to think not. I think they mostly kept him around because he's a Westerner. He's a fan favorite in Philly. It's basically him and Carpe. If they ever got rid of either of them, they'd be, Philly fans would start rioting, basically. They love Poco for whatever reason. And I think London's really trying to repair that image, and I think it's to a fault. And I'm not saying the idea in and of itself is a bad one. Don't get me wrong. I think appealing to your fan base can be good. I think what Houston did in season 1 was good. Build an American team, and your brand is basically your America's Overwatch League team. And they were decent until they weren't. But imagine if you have had Dante on that roster in season 1. If you have traded for Dante, why didn't you trade for Dante? San Francisco was practically begging someone to trade for him. They wanted Sinatra anyway. Just trade for Dante. I don't get why they didn't do that. But you would have been better and probably fine. Tyrone wasn't great as a coach. Regardless, a lot of teams have done this. Soon going to Paris was this, for sure. Soon was the attempt by Paris to appeal to Paris fans, to appeal to people of the France Overwatch League viewers. That was the goal. And I think it worked. I think Paris has a fairly solid French fan base. They really appeal to their fans. They really, on social media, they go through great lengths to appeal to the French. They just do. I think it's one of the better jobs in the league. I think it's up there with a lot of the Korean team, with a team like Seoul, who's trying to appeal to both the Western market and the Eastern market. I think they do a great job. But London, I think, is playing catch-up right now, and I think they're doing it the wrong way. I don't think Blasé adds anything to the team. I don't think picking up British Hurricane just because they're popular, I don't think they're that good. I think this is honestly, we are in a state of Overwatch contenders. This isn't the same state as it was in Season 1, where you had Runaway and you had Kongdu Panthera, which, by the way, Kongdu Panthera tried to go over to Shanghai and they had to switch out a bunch of different pieces. It's never a good idea when you just try to do a clean, like, contenders to Overwatch League. It just doesn't really work 9 times out of 10. And teams, thankfully, most teams don't try to do it. So I don't think that's going to fix it. Moth was on the market. Why didn't you go get him? You need legitimate players. Season 1, when you won the title, you had legitimate players. And mind you, you were one match away from losing to the LA Gladiators in the first round. If Fissure doesn't inexplicably get benched, you probably lose that series, because the Gladiators outplayed you in the first best of 5. I mean, in the first set. You shouldn't have the championship that you do now. You do, and you should, don't apologize for it. But you did it on the back of excellent players like Prophet and Berggren and Bedozin and Gesture and Fury, of course. Excellent players. You don't have a championship contending team, and I'm sorry, and you don't have a team that's like super young. I mean, you have your British Hurricane guys, but then you pick up Blasé. I don't get where that tracks. Blasé could be a solid player on either a mid-level team or a higher level team who just needs to add depth. Which, by the way, thank you, San Francisco, for showing us that teams need to add depth. Thank you. You do things the right way. You take a lot of traditional sports principles. So London's move just doesn't make a lot of sense. You didn't stick with your young plan. You aren't going legit and trying to win a championship. You're just kind of staying in the middle. I think trying to appeal to a Western fan base who really has not appreciated you. You just have made some freaking boneheaded moves. I'm still wondering what the plan was after getting rid of the championship core so soon. I mean, Prophet and Gesture have taken a Soul Dynasty team that was kind of okay. Not spectacular, just kind of okay. And turned them into a championship contending team. I don't get why I don't understand any of the roster moves they've made so far. And I don't think this is helping. So, yeah, we'll get into more of that probably in a future video. But for now, thank you so much for watching. And I'll catch you next time.